You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
And away we go. Episode 1087 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. It is the second day of the Commanders' final 3 OTA days of the 2025 offseason. Those days are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday of this week, and this Wednesday OTA practice is open to the media. This also is the day after Louisiana Economic Development announced the findings of a study by Louisiana State University regarding the economic impact of this year's Super Bowl, Super Bowl 59, which took place at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. The economic impact, per the study, included the following: $1.25 billion in total statewide economic impact, $658 million in total spending by visitors and vendors, $82.7 million in state and local tax revenue, 115,000 total attendees, including 100,000 from out of state, representing 45 U.S. states. If all of this does not scream for the D.C. Council to approve the deal for a Commander Stadium on the RFK Stadium site in Washington, D.C., I don't know what does. I mean, this stadium could practically pay for itself in terms of the cost for D.C. just by hosting a Super Bowl, which is considered a given should the stadium happen. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Well, Super Bowl 59, sadly, was won by, yes, the Philadelphia Eagles. Pro Football Focus, in a recent PFF.com piece, ranked the Eagles as having the number 1 roster in the NFL. The Commanders roster was number 11. Next segment, I'll speak with one of the authors of that piece, a good friend of this podcast, Pro Football Focus data analyst Dalton Wasserman. Dalton will discuss the Commanders roster being ranked 11th in the NFL, including analysis of what PFF labeled as the biggest weakness for the Commanders roster, the defensive line, what to make of cornerback Marshon Lattimore as the top X factor on the Commanders roster for PFF, why the Commanders secondary can be a strength this coming season, why Dalton is a big fan of the Commanders taking offensive lineman Josh Conerly Jr. and quarterback Trey Amos with the team's top 2 picks in the 2025 NFL Draft, why Jayden Daniels could vault into being an elite NFL quarterback this coming season, why Dalton is bullish on receiver Deebo Samuel Sr., and more. Pro Football Focus data analyst Dalton Wasserman. Next segment on the Commanders having the number 11 roster in the NFL per a piece that he co-authored for PFF.com. Also on the show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats, they on Tuesday evening got ripped by the Chicago Cubs, 8-3 at Nationals Park. The O's, they late night on Tuesday night won for the 7th time in 9 games, a 5-1 win at the Seattle Mariners. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Dave on the concept of the NFL Draft. Writes Dave. Al, I enjoy your podcast every morning as I try to exercise, often without success. I work for a labor union, so I am very biased in what I'm about to propose, but would like to hear your thoughts on my not-so-modest change to the NFL draft. The whole idea of a draft is anathema to our individualist, capitalist society and worker ownership over workers' own labor. These young men chosen have no say in where they work, how they are compensated, or who their supervisors will be, as these things were bargained by others for their benefit. How quaint and paternalistic. Can you imagine this in your own workplace? Instead of the worst franchises in the league getting the best players by fiat and the players' pay being determined by an agreement none of them had a voice in, instead of this draft concept, how about a bidding system or auction, if you will? It might work like this. Every year, each team in the league gets the same amount of money to fill out the team's roster from a list of eligible first-year players. This year, let's say that amount is $20 million. Then each team can submit bids to the players' representatives starting at noon on April 24th. You could offer your whole $20 million to one player, say Cam Ward, or split it up into any number of offers, like $5 million each to 2 tackles, a safety, and a punter, or even 20 individual $1 million offers, whatever. Then the players have 8 hours to respond yes or no. This gives them agency to choose where they work, which coaching staff they would work with, and how much they would be compensated. By 8 p.m. after negotiations, the teams and players then announce who has agreed to terms. This would be the television show that everyone would tune into. Where did player X end up, and how much is he getting paid? Everyone else eligible who has not reached an agreement becomes a free agent. This then allows them and teams to freely embrace the market and learn who is still available. They would still have to stay under the $20 million threshold. Thoughts? Thanks for the information and entertainment. Well, thank you for the email, Dave. That is a wild idea, man. That is a fascinating idea. Here to me are the problems with the idea. Number one, the NFL draft already is a massive ratings monster. So while this auction likely would also be a big hit, the league already has a big hit in the draft. Number two, the concept of the worst teams getting the highest draft picks is predicated on a pursuit of parity, on a pursuit of competitive balance that, in theory, makes each of the 32 NFL teams healthy and wealthy. The auction system could very much work against the parity and make the good teams even better and the bad teams even worse. And while you could argue that that is natural selection, that is professional sports Darwinism, and that's good, from the NFL's perspective, that would not be good. The NFL wants each of its teams over time to have success in order to keep fan bases engaged. And number three, and this is more of a philosophical thing, but when you say that players taken in NFL drafts have no say in where those players work, well, they do in that they are choosing to work in the NFL. It's a tricky deal. A player's paycheck comes from his team, not the league. But the team, of course, is part of the league. Without the league, there is no team. The players abide by a collective bargaining agreement between the league and the NFL Players Association. There is not a separate CBA for each team with the NFLPA. So there's some gray area here about who truly is the employer. But you could argue that players choose to play in the NFL, but in doing so, accept the rules and guidelines of the NFL. Nobody's forcing these players to play in the NFL. If they don't like the draft system or the CBA or anything else, those players can play somewhere else. Now, of course, there is no other football league that comes close to the NFL in terms of player compensation, but that is not the NFL's problem. The NFL can tell these guys, hey, you either accept how we do business or you go somewhere else. And when it comes to the NFLPA, it is the weakest of the major pro sports players associations. The NFL routinely steamrolls the NFLPA, in large part because the NFLPA is comprised of so many players, and it's hard to get that many people to agree on anything and to commit to anything. Like, if the NFLPA really wanted to enact major change, the NFLPA would need to be willing to strike. But getting all of the players in the NFL, or even just an overwhelming majority of the players in the NFL, to agree to strike and to commit to a strike would be really hard for a lot of reasons. And so the NFL basically dictates its terms, and the NFLPA has to swallow those terms. And, everybody makes a lot of money, and life goes on. Like Al Pacino, as Michael Corleone said in the all-time great movie The Godfather, it's nothing personal. It's strictly business.
It's not personal, Sonny. It's strictly business.
Yeah, it's nothing personal, man. It's strictly business. But an interesting idea from Dave in his email. Hey, the finals, they start this week. Indiana at Oklahoma City, Thursday night at 8:30. Do not miss your last chance to cash in on the basketball season with Prize Picks, which is offering free cash to listeners of this podcast. Download the app and use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Yeah, you get $50 when you play $5. Prize Picks Pick'em is available in Virginia and Washington, D.C. You just pick more or less on players in various statistical categories. And Prize Picks Streak has arrived in Maryland. You make a free daily pick. Just choose more or less on one featured player projection each day and build your streak by winning for 2 or more days. Each correct pick grows your streak. All of this on Prize Picks, which is great for basketball, baseball, and hockey. Heck, you on Prize Picks can mix and match player projections from different sports. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports app, and Prize Picks has a special deal for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the app. Use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Yes, $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks is awesome. I've used it. It's a ton of fun. It's easy to use. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your opinions into real money on Prize Picks and take advantage of what Prize Picks is offering to listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the app. Use the promo code GALDI, and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Yo, it's D-Lo. I'm partnering with Ro. Women, y'all feel that? It's sexy. But if you're stressing about your performance, it throws you off. That's why I rock with Ro Sparks. Ro Sparks dissolve under your tongue and hit fast so you're ready when the moment pops off. You feel like a superhero. It's satisfying your partner. That's key. Rose Sparks help you last longer, stay fuller, and keep the whole vibe right. When prescribed, new patients get $15 off their first order. Hit up ro.co/backyard and to see if Rose Sparks are right for you. That's ro.co/backyard and see if Rose Sparks are right for you.
Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved. Do not undergo FDA safety effectiveness or manufacturing review. For full safety information, go to ro.co/safety-info.
Hey, if you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. One of the things that became apparent as last NFL season went on was how dependent the Commanders were on quarterback Jayden Daniels. Yes, there were other Commanders players who had good 2024 seasons, but the team, more than most NFL teams, was dependent on the QB1, a rookie, no less. In large part because the team had just one offseason with the new regime of Adam Peters as general manager and Dan Quinn as head coach. Rebuilding a roster takes time. Recalibrating a roster takes time. So off the events of this offseason, how good is the Commanders roster right now? I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Pro Football Focus data analyst Dalton Wasserman. He is the co-host of the PFF College Football Show podcast. He is a regular on the PFF NFL Show podcast. You can follow Dalton on X at PFF_Dalton, and Dalton co-authored a PFF.com piece that came out on May 29th. Headline quote, 2025 NFL roster rankings, strengths, weaknesses, and X factors for every starting lineup, end quote. The piece ranks the Commanders as having the number 11 roster in the NFL. Hey, Dalton, how are you?
Fantastic, Al. Always good to be on.
Good to talk to you. The piece for each NFL team lists its biggest strength, biggest weakness, biggest X factor, and rookie to watch. The piece has the Commanders' biggest strength as Jayden Daniels, so their biggest weakness as the defensive line, their X factor as cornerback Marshon Lattimore, and their rookie to watch as offensive lineman Josh Conerly Jr. with the defensive line. So the Commanders this offseason have made a lot of moves with the defensive line. The unrestricted free agent acquisitions in terms of defensive linemen, Javon Kinlaw, Dietrich Wise Jr., Jacob Martin, and Eddie Goldman. The re-signings in terms of unrestricted free agent defensive linemen, Cleveland Farrell, Sheldon Day, Jalen Holmes, and Carl Davis. And also for the Commanders in terms of defensive linemen this offseason, the team released interior defensive lineman Jonathan Allen, and the team lost unrestricted free agent edge defender Dante Fowler Jr. to the Dallas Cowboys. A lot to take in. What do you think of what the Commanders have done with their defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, I think you talk about a handful of additions, but I think what you're looking for is really improvement, especially on run defense from some guys internally, right? You want to see Daron Payne play the way that he's played for most of his career, only a 51.8 grade for us last year. Johnny Newton is a big one, I think, because I really liked him as a second-round pick last year. He was dealing with a foot injury and trying to really get through the early part of his season last year. I think he's one who could have a real impact. And then, there's some other solid players. Dietrich Wise has at least been a consistently solid player throughout his career, and hopefully he can, again, just add something in run defense. That's where I get the most concerned, is that when you match this team up with, especially with Philadelphia, who wants to run the ball so much, can they hang on in the trenches, right? Even signing a guy like Javon Kinlaw from the Jets, he's really struggled in run defense throughout his career. So that's my biggest concern with this team, is the front four on any given down, especially early downs against the run. You've got Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, one of the league's best linebacker duos behind it, but that defensive line is definitely still the concern for me heading into this season.
Edge defender is a big-time concern for a lot of Commanders fans. What do you make of the Commanders at edge defender?
It's certainly not the elite level that you see a lot of other, postseason contenders at. Really like Dorrance Armstrong and the work he put in. I like the fact that they used Frankie Louvu at times also off the edge. You could argue he was really the second best pass rusher last year, but losing Dante Fowler hurts, right? And then you're really trying to fill in that void, right? I mean, you're talking about if you're going to sign another edge defender in free agency, maybe even a situational pass rusher. I think about somebody like maybe Jadeveon Clowney, who was recently cut from the Carolina Panthers, right? Maybe you hope that Dietrich Wise gives you a little bit of something there, even though he's known more as an early down player. So it is something to be concerned about. And I wonder, I do wonder if Louvu has even more of an impact off the edge this year, if Dan Quinn maybe blitzes off the edge. But beyond Dorrance Armstrong, I do think there is a lot of questions.
The Commanders roster X Factor for the PFF.com piece that you co-authored. Marshon Lattimore, he off being acquired by the team via trade last November 5th, what was 2024 NFL trade deadline day, was with the team for a total of 11 games, 8 regular season games, 3 postseason games. He, due to a troublesome hamstring, played in just 5 of those games, 2 regular season games and all 3 postseason games, and the play was at best mixed. He reportedly has 2 seasons and 0 guaranteed money left on his contract. Where are we with Lattimore?
I think he's a bounce-back candidate for me. I think especially when you think about the injury and how little you mentioned he got to play. And even when he got back, he just didn't look right with the hamstring injury. And look, he's a big factor. You're talking about a former Pro Bowler. You're talking about a guy who maybe he's not one of the top 5 to 8 cornerbacks in the league anymore. But if he even gives you, his normal grades for us in the mid to high 70s, huge improvement from what you're talking about. I think him and the rookie Trey Amos are really both big factors, because if they both go out there and play well, you can move Mike Sainer still back into the slot where he's, more naturally a fit in there where he played in college in the slot. And then you've got a pretty good looking trio. But to me, it starts with Lattimore. They traded for him to add stability to that unit. Didn't do it last year because of the injury. But I think when you look at his career averages and the way he's played his entire career in New Orleans, that's definitely still in there. And if he brings that, you're talking about bringing major improvement to a cornerback unit that ranked last in coverage grade for us last year.
The Commanders, in terms of the secondary this offseason, they took quarterback Trey Amos out of Ole Miss in the second round of the 2025 NFL Draft. The Commanders signed unrestricted free agent cornerback Jonathan Jones. The team re-signed unrestricted free agent cornerback Noah Igbenogany. The team signed unrestricted free agent safety Will Harris, and the team lost safeties Jeremy Chin and Derek Forrest and cornerback Benjamin St-Juste in unrestricted free agency. What's your outlook for the Commanders secondary this coming season?
Optimistically, yeah. I think Quan Martin got a lot better as the season went on, right? And I think this cornerback group, there is at least potential. Mike Sainer still, even though he was playing kind of out of position on the outside, played well his rookie year. Lattimore's been better throughout his career. Trey Amos has a lot of talent, and a guy that we thought was a borderline first-round talent, and you get him way at the end of the second round. I thought that was a great value. Noah Igbinogheni's obviously got experience. So they have a lot of potential. I think there is a potential for it to be at least a solid secondary, maybe creeping in on the top 15 there, which again is a lot better than they had last year. But there's several factors that go into that. And again, I think it starts with Lattimore, and then Amos coming in and playing well as a second round pick would be a huge help.
We last spoke on episode 1031, which came out on March 19th, so more than a month before the 2025 NFL Draft. What is the Dalton Wasserman assessment of the Commanders' top two picks in the draft? First round, the number 29 overall pick, offensive lineman Josh Conerly Jr. out of the University of Oregon. Second round, the number 61 overall pick, cornerback Trey Amos out of Ole Miss.
I really like them both. I think, you know what, with Tunsil coming in, Conerly is probably going to have to switch sides and play right tackle if he's going to start right away or eventually. But Conerly's a really proven pass protector, okay? And he's really more of a finesse player. He's not, the most aggressive run blocker in the world. But when you talk about this team and what they're trying to do, protecting Jayden Daniels, that's what every team is trying to do with a young quarterback. You look at Houston, you still look at Cincinnati, you look at Carolina. They're trying to protect their quarterback, and Conerly can certainly do that. And again, Amos, I just think he's a good fit. He's got good size. He's a guy that Dan Quinn, it's one of those bigger corners that Dan Quinn generally likes, right? We've seen that in Seattle and Atlanta and everywhere he's been, in Dallas. Right, so I think he's a great fit in the defense. Play a little bit of man, a little bit of zone. One of the few corners in the draft, I should say, that I think it was really scheme versatile. And I think to get him as late as he did in the second round is really a steal. I think he got two borderline first round talents in those two guys. I'm a big fan of Conerly. I had him as the fourth best offensive tackle in the draft, and it's just going to be a matter of him transitioning to another position with Tunsil locking down the left tackle spot.
We're talking Commanders with Pro Football Focus data analyst Dalton Wasserman. He co-authored a recent PFF.com piece that ranks the Commanders as having the number 11 roster in the NFL. The biggest strength on the team's roster, per the piece, of course, is Jayden Daniels. You are a big believer in Daniels. How likely is him this coming season taking another step and joining the NFL's class of elite quarterbacks? Like right now, there's a big four of the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, and the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow. How likely is Daniels this coming season making the big four a big five?
I think it's a very, very good chance of it. And I know that's often judged on playoff games and how much you win, and obviously made the NFC Championship game in his rookie year after the team picked second overall to get him. But no, I mean, when you look at a guy who in our stats is already last year, he was the fifth best quarterback overall, fifth in passing grade, really second behind Lamar Jackson when it comes to running the football. So you've got a true dual threat. He's not very far away at all. And when you talk about adding a primetime left tackle in Laramie Tunsil, adding Deebo Samuel, even a guy like Jalen Lane later in the draft that I think brings an element of speed that they didn't always have outside of Terry McLaurin last year, he's set up right to join that group. And it's just a matter to me of the offensive line improving with Tunsil and Conerly and some other guys in there. Getting Sam Cosmi back healthy will help too. And then the defense, and then just trying not to get in shootouts every single week, right? Maybe the defense helps out just a little bit in some of those bigger games, but Daniels is not very far away at all. And with what they've added to this offense, it could happen this year.
Do you consider Jayden Daniels right now to be the best quarterback in the NFC, or does that title have to go to the Philadelphia Eagles' Jalen Hurts off him having just won a Super Bowl?
I could be in on that. I mean, Jalen, it was inconsistent during the regular season last year. There's been moments of inconsistency. He does certainly do a lot of great things, and he's done great things in both Super Bowls he's played in. So, I mean, if you want to take the winning angle of it, I get it with Jalen Hurts. I think Matt Stafford is also still in that mix. Baker Mayfield's very good, but I would make the argument that based on what we saw last year, if we're going to see that for several years coming, yeah, Jayden Daniels, I think you could certainly argue his best quarterback in the NFC.
You mentioned receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. You in a PFF.com piece that came out on May 28th identified one bounce-back candidate for each NFL team in the 2025 season. You went with Samuel for the Commanders. I take it that you were bullish on him for this coming season.
Yeah, I am. I'm not writing him off yet. I know there's a lot of people writing him off saying he's slowing down and this and that and the other thing. But you look at the first 8 weeks of last year, he was in the top 8 in receiving grade for us. He still had it, and his lack of production down the stretch really came with the fall of the rest of the 49ers offense. The offensive line was falling apart with Trent Williams out. Brock Purdy was struggling. Brandon Ayuk was hurt. Christian McCaffrey wasn't playing. I mean, you just had a ton of factors going into San Francisco's offensive failures the second half of last year. So, maybe is he what he used to be in 2021, 2022? Maybe not quite, but I'll tell you what, this is someone who could still get after it after the catch with the ball in his hands. You can do a lot of different things with him. I like him going to a team in Washington, 1, with an extremely accurate quarterback, and 2, that runs the 6th highest rate of screens in the league last year. So I think he's going to be the benefactor of a lot of that while McLaurin gets deep downfield. He's the vertical threat. I just think it's a great place for Deebo to be, to get a fresh start. And he's still got plenty in the tank. I think he's going to have a good season, and to have him complementing the rest of this offense and maybe even be a rushing threat at times. We've seen him get into the backfield. I think Deebo can do a lot of good things in Cliff Kingsbury's offense.
The Commanders hired Adam Peters as general manager in January 2024. He took over a roster that was horrendous. This is only his second offseason presiding over the team's football operations. Realistically, how long does it take to transform a really bad NFL roster into a really good one?
It takes, I'm with you. I think it takes a minimum 2 years to get into that point where you're talking about a top 5 roster in the NFL. You got to be really loaded at a vast majority of the spots on your team, right? Like I look at, the teams that are top 5. When you look at Philadelphia, that's a constant, process of drafting and adding great talent. Kansas City, we have still at number 4, and that's a constant process of drafting great year in and year out. Detroit, it's taken years and years. So I would say a minimum of 2 years and possibly more likely 3. But the jump that the Commanders have made, I believe last year I had them number, I think 28 going into the season last year, and to make that jump to 11 in one season is incredible in itself. But I think it would take at least one more offseason when you talk about breaking into the top 5 or 6 of some of these elite rosters we have in the league. But I'll tell you what, they're off to a real good start. When you make that jump from 28 to 11 and you found your franchise quarterback all in the process, it's a great jump. And I think, again, to me, it's the defense. It's about one more offseason of fixing up this defense, especially the D-line, and just continuing to improve there.
So the Commanders, per the PFF.com piece that you co-authored, have the number 11 roster in the NFL. The top 10, number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 2, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 3, the Detroit Lions. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 5, the Buffalo Bills. Number 6, the Los Angeles Rams. Number 7, the Houston Texans. Number 8, the Minnesota Vikings. Number 9, the Denver Broncos. And number 10, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Which top 10 team surprised you the most in being in the top 10 as you conducted this exercise?
Maybe a couple in the back end of the top 10. We have the Denver Broncos at number 9, just ahead of the Commanders. And I think when you look at the pieces they've added on defense, especially, that they have the potential to be the best defense in football. If Dre Greenlaw's healthy, if Talanoa Hufanga has a bounce back, and I think he can in that defense. Bo Nix, obviously, a big factor in that, considering the expectation. We had them towards the bottom of the list last year, too, and they completely surprised us with the success they had. And then, tell you what, you look at, they're not talked about as an NFC contender, really, but one spot ahead of Washington, we do have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which might sound funny because the Commanders beat the Bucs in the playoffs, but you look at almost every spot in their roster, they need a little bit of a bounce back in the back end of their defense in the secondary, but they're really good all the way around. Their offensive line is solid. I would say probably a top 10 offensive line. They're loaded at receiver. Baker Mayfield was just behind Jayden Daniels in the quarterback grades last year. So those couple of teams in the bottom 10. But, towards the top, there's some of the usual suspects, right? When you talk about Philly, Detroit, Baltimore, Kansas City, teams like that, those are the elite teams that have been drafted well and playing well for a long time. But some of those teams on the back end, a Denver, a Tampa Bay, might be some sleepers when you talk about making a deeper playoff run.
Pro Football Focus data analyst Dalton Wasserman. Dalton, thanks. All the best.
Appreciate it as always, Al. Thank you.
All right. Well, Adam Peters is making a difference with the Commanders roster, just like the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers, continues to make a difference. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court in a case in which the Nace Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace, he is a big Commanders fan. He is a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. Lead attorney Chris Nace is an experienced trial attorney who is not afraid to take cases to trials, and that's because the Nace Law Group wins trials. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. Well, the Nationals on Tuesday evening began a 3-game series against maybe the best team in the National League, and the result was a rough loss, an 8-3 loss to the Chicago Cubs at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening in a game in which the Nats blew a 3-1 fourth-inning lead. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 28-32. The Cubs in this regular season now are a National League best 38-22 with a National League best run differential of plus 102. The Nats starting pitcher on Tuesday evening was a former Cub, Trevor Williams. He is not having a good season, but he was coming off a good outing. Williams in the Nats' 9-0 win at the Seattle Mariners late night this past Wednesday night, May 28th, tossed 6 scoreless innings. But Williams in this 8-3 loss to the Cubs on Tuesday evening was not good. He officially allowed 5 runs in 4 and a third innings. He gave up 5 hits, which were a triple, 2 doubles, and 2 singles. He did have 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk, and he did throw a lot of strikes as he over 76 pitches threw 50 strikes versus just 26 balls. So Williams in the top of the first issued a leadoff walk of Ian Happ, but then generated 3 consecutive swinging strikeouts, which were of the Cubs' numbers 2 through 4 batters, and Seiya Suzuki, Pete Crow Armstrong, and Carson Kelly. So Williams' first inning ended up being great, but Williams then was charged with 5 runs over the next 3 and a third innings. The Cubs are a good offensive team. They, for this regular season, as of games through Monday, were number 3 in the majors in team OPS plus at 124. And the Cubs on Tuesday evening got to Trevor Williams. And so Trevor Williams now in this regular season, 12 starts, ERA of 6.03, whip of 1.44. There are candidates to replace him in the Nats rotation. Reliever Brad Lord is a candidate. He was showing improvement as a starting pitcher earlier this season while in the rotation in place of the injured Michael Soroka. Starting pitcher Cade Cavalli is a candidate, though he in a 6-5, 10-inning loss for the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings at the Worcester Red Sox on Tuesday evening, allowed 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He for this season has an ERA of 4.63 for Rochester. But Trevor Williams has been the weak link in the Nats rotation. There's no doubt about that. The Nats bullpen in this 8-3 loss to the Cubs on Tuesday evening was bad. 5 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Andrew Chafin was charged with 2 runs without recording an out. He had a Cubs 4-run fifth, faced 3 batters and got no outs as he sandwiched 2 one-out walks around a 1-out single, and the second 1-out walk was a 1-out bases loaded walk of Michael Busch for a 5-3 Cubs lead. Cole Henry, he officially tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning, but he and the Cubs 4-run fifth faced 4 batters and got 2 outs, including giving up a 2-out full count 2-run opposite field single by Nico Horner through the right side of the infield for a 7-3 Cubs lead, despite Henry having had Horner down in the count at 1.12. Eduardo Salazar was good. He tossed a scoreless and hitless top of the 6th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Zach Brixey allowed 1 run in 2 innings. He in the top of the 7th gave up a leadoff homer by Michael Busch on a bomb to right center field for an 8-3 Cubs lead. The homer went a projected 410 feet per Statcast, and Jackson Rutledge tossed a perfect top of the 9th. And the Nats offense in this 8-3 loss to the Cubs on Tuesday evening started off well, but then struggled. The Nats scored 3 runs over the first 3 innings, but then got shut out over the final 6 innings. The Nats for the game, 3 runs, 8 hits, just 1 walk, just 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The 8 hits were 3 doubles and 5 singles. The Cubs starting pitcher, Cade Horton, he allowed 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings, but 3 Cubs relievers combined for 3 2/3 scoreless innings. James Wood, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 1 for 3 with a double and an RBI sac fly. Luis Garcia Jr. had a good game. He is the Nats starting second baseman and number 4 batter, went 3 for 4 with an RBI single and 2 other singles. He did get thrown out in an attempted steal of second base. Dalen Lyle, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 9 batter, went 1 for 3 with a double. Jose Tena, he is the Nats starting third baseman and number 8 batter, went 1 for 2 with a double and a walk. But Tena in the Cubs' 2-run fourth had a really bad defensive moment. So with Pete Crow Armstrong at third base, no outs, and the Nats up 3-1, Carson Kelly hit a grounder to Tena, who made a nice play to field a high hop, but he did not get an out. He essentially froze. He stared Crow Armstrong back to third base, and Tena did not throw to first base, and the Cubs went on to score 2 runs in the inning. This was Nats manager Davey Martinez during his postgame press conference on Tuesday night on what happened with Jose Tena on this play.
Yeah, he saw him break, and he tried. He thought about running after him. Then he thought about throwing. Then he thought about running, and then by that time, the kid's fast. He got back to third. It was too late to throw the ball first. You just got to come up, looking back, and just fire the ball at first base, and then see what happens.
Yeah, a bad defensive moment for the Nats, who continued to rate poorly defensively. The Nats for this regular season, as of games through Monday, were number 26 out of 30 Major League teams in Sports Info Solutions defensive runs saved, -16, and were number 29 out of 30 Major League teams in StatCast outs above average, -15. More from Davey Martinez during his postgame press conference on Tuesday night. This on the nature of this loss to the Cubs, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange.
Yeah, it's a weird game. A couple of mistakes on defense, and then really the one inning was the walks. The walks got us that inning, and then a base hit. So, we just got to come back tomorrow. We just we try to eliminate all that stuff, and just today was just weird,
Why is weird the word that you used to describe it?
Just weird. I mean, the play at third base, and Tennis just looking back and throw the ball, get the out at first. He didn't do either. Cole's been throwing the ball really well. Today, he was yanking everything. James has been really good against lefties. He's walked 2 left-handed hitters, so that to me is weird.
Well, regarding the Nats at third base, update on the Nats' number 1 position playing prospect per MLB Pipeline, third baseman Brady House. House per MLB Pipeline is the Nats' number 3 overall prospect and is the number 94 overall prospect in baseball. He in that 10-inning loss for AAA Rochester at Worcester on Tuesday evening as the Red Wings starting third baseman and number 2 batter went 1 for 5 with a solo homer. House for this season now has an OPS of .863 and has 11 home runs. The expectation is that the Nats will promote House to the majors at some point this season, but he is knocking on the door with that good-looking OPS of .863. The Nats took Brady House with the number 11 overall pick in the 2021 MLB draft out of a high school in Georgia. This is his age 22 season. Game 2 for the Nats against the Cubs at Nationals Park, Wednesday evening at 6:45. Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. Well, the man known as the Milkman is back, and the Milkman delivered late night on Tuesday night as the Orioles won for the 7th time in 9 games. A 5-1 win at the Seattle Mariners late night on Tuesday night in Game 1 of a 3-game series and Game 1 of a 6-game trip out west as the O's, Joe Angel, again, were in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe, the win column. The O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 23-36. The Mariners in this regular season now are 32-27, a half game behind the Houston Astros for first place in the American League West. The Mariners are a good team, but the O's in this game handled the Mariners. And the milkman, Colton Cowser, is back. The O's on Monday evening announced having reinstated outfielder Colton Cowser from the 60-day injured list, which he had been on since April 28th. This off having been on the 10-day injured list since March 31st. All of this due to a left thumb fracture that he suffered on a headfirst slide into first base in the Orioles' 3-1 loss at the Toronto Blue Jays on March 30th. And Cowser, late night on Tuesday night as the Orioles starting center fielder and number 6 batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Cowser in an Orioles 1-run 6 had a leadoff opposite field home run to left field for a 3-1 Orioles lead. Great to have Colton Cowser back. He was one of the Orioles' best players last season. He's very good defensively, which should help an Orioles outfield defense that has been quite bad this season. And Cowser can hit, and he late night on Tuesday night did hit with that solo homer. Here was Orioles interim manager Tony Mansolino during his postgame session with reporters early Wednesday morning on Colton Cowser homering.
Yeah, what a loose swing, huh? I mean, you forget how free and easy that swing is right there. Just kind of like the flick of the wrist. And the other bats were outstanding. You know, the guy made a nice play at second base. I think his last at bat, but that first inning, I think it ran 3-2. Got himself in a 3-0 count, put a good swing on the ball. He looked really good for first game back in the big leagues after 2 months.
Well, the O's had a good offensive game. 5 runs, 13 hits, 2 walks, 3 for 9 with runners in scoring position. The 13 hits were the home run, a double, and 11 singles. 4 Orioles each had at least 2 hits. Ryan O'Hearn, he is the Orioles starting first baseman and number 4 batter, went 2 for 3 with an RBI single, another single, and a walk. Heston Kjerstad, he is the Orioles starting right fielder and number 8 batter, went 2 for 3 with an RBI double, a single, and a walk. Adley Rutschman, he is the Orioles starting catcher and number 2 batter, went 3 for 5 with 3 singles. And Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 3 batter, went 2 for 5 with 2 singles. So Ryan O'Hearn, he now for this regular season has an OPS of .961 that ranks number 1 among all qualified Orioles players and number 6 among all qualified Major League players. The Orioles starting pitcher in this 5-1 win at the Mariners late night on Tuesday night was Tomoyuki Sugano. He was good again. He allowed 1 run in 7 innings with 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up just 5 hits, which were a home run and 4 singles. He threw 90 pitches, 58 strikes versus 32 balls. How good has this guy been? Tomoyuki Sugano now for this regular season, 12 starts, ERA of 3.04, whip of 1.04. He has been by far the Orioles' best starting pitcher this season, and the Orioles bullpen in this 5-1 win at the Mariners late night on Tuesday night was good. 2 Orioles relievers combined for 2 scoreless innings. Brian Baker tossed the scoreless bottom of the 8th with 2 strikeouts, despite giving up back-to-back 1-out singles, and Felix Bautista tossed a perfect bottom of the 9th. The post-game session of Tony Mansolino with reporters early Wednesday morning began with this exchange between Orioles insider Rock Kabatko of MASNsports.com and Mansolino, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange.
Tony, you feel like, first of all, overall, this might have been one of the better games you guys have played?
Yeah, we played great, and it starts with the starting pitching, which we've seen here over the last couple weeks. I feel like it's been really strong. I feel like going back here the last 4 or 5 games, we've had several guys get into the 7th or through the 7th, it feels like. Tomo was incredible today. He set the tone for us. That's not an easy lineup to navigate right there with the right, the left, the switches, the power, the slug, the bat to ball. He did a great job. That's, for me, that's the big difference in the game.
Sure, that's just by his overall consistency outing to outing this year and how he seems to always pitch well.
I mean, he's done it all year. I don't know if we knew what to expect, but this guy's an MVP in Japan. He's a Cy Young Award winner in Japan. He's been incredible there. So I think now as we kind of see it here, it makes sense. You know, it's not the normal 95 to 98 that you see from some of these guys. It's just outstanding command. It's a split. It's 5 or 6 pitches. It's absolutely zero fear. It's a really calm heart. Nothing speeds up on the guy. It kind of makes sense seeing it.
Yeah, Tomoyuki Sugano has been really good for the O's. Game 2 for the O's at the Mariners Wednesday night at 9:40. Cade Povich will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday show, episode 1088, will provide you with more on the Commanders as they on Wednesday have an OTA day that is open to the media. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are home to the Chicago Cubs Wednesday evening at 6:45 in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The O's are at the Seattle Mariners Wednesday night at 9:40 in Game 2 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
It's not personal, Sonny. It's strictly business.